All right, guys, what's up? This is Josiah.
Samuel.
And we're back, episode 2. We're really doing this thing. We're in the second episode of the Chiss Ascendancy podcast, Star Wars Thoughts from Wild Space. We can go anywhere and everywhere with this. So, what are we going to talk about today, Samuel?
Today, we're going to be talking about the Clone Wars.
Yes.
And it's relevant because just recently they dropped the trailer for Season 7, which we never thought we were going to get when they canceled the show in 2014.
Yep.
So we've got a lot of thoughts about what is the Clone Wars to what do we expect from this new season.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. When it was canceled, I was just happy we got Lost Missions from Netflix.
Exactly.
You know, I felt so privileged to have that. But, of course, when Disney picked up the torch, you know, and bought everything, I really felt like the possibility was there, but I knew they were so focused on the sequel trilogy and different stuff. We didn't even know about Disney Plus at the time.
No, it was.
And so
this is all new stuff.
Yeah, really, Clone Wars, rebooting the Clone Wars, saving the Clone Wars, heavy on my heart. But the last thing I thought that was on Disney's mind, and so we're super excited. Today is January 24th, so we're probably going to be posting this later on. So as we get more videos posted, we'll be recording for that following week. But we could not hold in our excitement for season 7. And
Season
so
7, here we go.
Let's talk about a little bit about what is the Clone Wars. Because a lot of our viewers, they're going to know what the Clone Wars is, the timelines, where it falls, their favorite characters and all that stuff, and that's totally cool. But we also want to be new Star Wars fan friendly.
Right.
You know, and so I remember what it was like, you know, we were born in the 90s, so I remember watching the prequels and being like, so this is before Darth Vader? And so I want to make sure that we are friendly to those new fans.
Absolutely.
You know, how does this affect Rey and Kylo Ren?
Not at all.
It does, but not directly. So, anyways, Clone Wars, you know, you have Episode 2, Attack of the Clones.
Right.
And this is the culmination of the clone army that has been put on order a decade earlier.
Yeah.
So really during the events of the Fandom Menace, Episode 1. And so the clones are created, and then at the end of Episode 2, you've got the Geonosis scene where the Jedi's, not that they're outmatched as far as quality of fighter, but they're just outnumbered. And so you've got the whole moment where Dooku says, you know, you fought valiantly, but, you know, should be recognized by the Jedi archives, but if you surrender now, we'll think about not hurting you anymore or whatever. And Mace Windu's not having it. And so we think that they're just about to mass execute these Jedi, but that's when my boy Yoda rides in with all these clone troopers. And so Clone Wars takes place between Episode 2
and Episode 3.
and the beginning of Episode 3.
Yeah.
So there's somewhere like a 3-year gap in there that Clone Wars fills.
I think there was just so much politically and developmentally between Obi-Wan and Anakin that needed to be explained. And I think that's what really necessitated the Clone Wars. So, you have... Can I continue? Okay. So you have the end of the Clone Wars, or the end of Attack the Clones, rather. And the whole episode, Obi-Wan's just putting Anakin down. He's like,
their
you
relationship
is
is
in
in
a place.
Yeah, he's in a
And even
place.
when he does something good, he's like, aim right above the fuel cell. He's like, good call, my young Padawan.
Yeah,
he's like, good job, stupid. You know, he's still putting him down.
It's nothing
even
but
when he's elevating
backhanded
it.
compliments from Obi-Wan.
Absolutely. He's like, you know, that dress would really look good if you didn't look so fat in it. You know, just backhanded compliments the whole time.
And is it just me, or does he totally know, like they're in that elevator ride on the way up, and freaking Obi-Wan's just ragging on Anakin for having pit sweat, getting excited about seeing Padme again. And he's like... And so, I just feel like, Episode 2, there's definitely a Master and Apprentice, shout out Master and Apprentice novel. But there's definitely that level of, I'm up here, you're down here, and you just really just need to obey. It's kind of when you're growing up and your mom and dad are like, hey, do such and such. And you're like, but why? And they're like, because I said so. And I feel like there's a lot of because I said so attitude come from Obi-Wan in episode 2.
Well, and it's because I think he realizes that Anakin has a lot of potential, and he knows that Anakin has a lot of potential.
So he's kind of hard on him.
But at the same time, he needed to still be restrained.
Yeah.
As the way of the Jedi. So anyway, all that to say that between episode 2 and 3, there's a lot of development.
Yeah,
especially in the political sphere, and how do we get from not at all thinking even about having a Republic army to fighting for more funding.
Excuse me.
Misa propose. Getting the power in the hands of the Supreme Chancellor.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what the Clone Wars is. It really kind of fits that dynamic and shows how we got from point A to point B, where point A is Attack of the Clones and point B is Revenge of the Sith.
And something that's really cool is in episode 4, I don't know why I didn't notice this for the longest time, but in the message from Leia to old Ben, she says to Obi-Wan, you served my father during the Clone War.
Right.
And so that was mentioned way, way back. And so it finally came to fruition at the very end of episode 2, but we still didn't know really what the Clone Wars was until episode 3 came out. So this really fills the gap. So the timeline, what is Clone Wars? Clone Wars is an animated show that was airing on Cartoon Network in partnership with Lucas. So it was airing on Cartoon Network, and then it got canceled after the 5th season.
Yeah.
And so the 6th season, also known as The Lost Missions, was picked up by Netflix. And they created what was supposed to be a 22-episode season. It got cut off at, I believe, 12 or 13 episodes.
It was not that many.
I think there's 12 in The Lost Missions.
Okay.
But it was supposed to be, the full 22 episodes, and I guess I don't know if it was funding or they didn't care for some of the story arcs.
Well, and I think they were
but it got cut at 12.
I think they were going to do the Dark Disciple story arc as well, and that just kind of got canned.
Yeah, I know that Dark Disciple, the Crystal Crisis, where you talk about Obi-Wan and Anakin needing to go to Utapau, and in Jabba's palace you have the Amon headhunter. We're gonna getting kind of deep here, but those Amanan people live on the surface of Utapau,
right?
And so there's that whole thing where the Separatists are trying to steal kyber crystals. Because obviously the Chancellor's pulling the strings on both sides, and there's supposed to be a huge kyber crystal on Utapau, and so the Separatists are trying to steal that. Anyways, there's that story arc, there's the Dark Disciple story arc, and then there's the Bad Batch story arc, where it's kind of like the Dirty Dozen of Clone Wars.
Yeah.
And all of those were made and had concepts going on, but never came to fruition. And so... Anyways, how much we'll see, we'll get into that later.
For sure.
But basically, it fills in all the gaps, and like you said, there's amazing character development.
There really is.
Between episodes 2 and 3, where, once you see episode 3 taking place, Anakin and Obi-Wan are on a buddy-buddy level. Anakin's joking around about how many times he saved Obi-Wan's life, and, that business on Kid and It doesn't count, and you've got all that going on.
Anything.
And so, Clone Wars helps fill those gaps. And my personal favorite part about Clone Wars, there's a lot to love. And we're kind of transitioning into the highlights of what we like about Clone Wars. But, going from what it is to what are some of our favorite things. I'll start. One of my favorite things is I love troopers. And so whether it's clone troopers, stormtroopers, you've got the variants of all of those things. First Order stormtroopers are... you got all that stuff, and then in episode 9 we had the Sith troopers and all that stuff. But, I love the 3 3/4 inch action figures, and there's the Jedi, and there's the Sith, and there's all that stuff. But I just love the troopers, man. I just love buying the stormtroopers and the Death Troopers, and there's just all these variations. So what was so cool to me about the Clone Wars is that it brings to life who a clone trooper is.
Right.
Because in episode 2, they just seem almost like human droids. It's just like everything is yes sir, and there's not really
right away, sir.
Yeah, there's nothing anything like freaking Padme falls and is like, no, we shouldn't do this. We should go this way. And the freaking clone from Jango Fett looks at Padme and is like, okay, sir. And I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's doing. Freaking Natalie Portman knows. But anyways. So in episode 2 and in 3, you get a little bit of animation from who Cody is, and they try to humanize him with his relationship with Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
but there's so much going on in that movie. And so you have multiple seasons to just unpack these characters. And I remember when the Clone Wars movie came out, you had Rex, and I was like, this guy's got blonde hair. What's up with that? That's out of regulation. But they did an amazing job of whether it's different speaking styles or haircuts or tattoos or whatever. They really start to bring to life the personalities of these clone troopers.
For sure.
And so now you've got all these characters through the Clone Wars who are some of our favorite characters who we never would have gotten if Clone Wars didn't exist.
For sure.
So, Clones is a highlight for me. What's something that you really enjoyed from Clone Wars?
I think for me, I've always kind of been into the philosophical side of Star Wars. And so this really helps us get deeper into those kind of conceptual aspects of Star Wars that don't quite fit into the movies. Because the movies, for the most part, are so storyline focused, and they have so much to get done that they don't
you only
have time.
I mean, even if you have 2.5 hours,
right,
you only have 2.5 hours.
Exactly. And so, they've got however many hours at Clone Wars. And what I really like about the Clone Wars, as opposed to Rebels, is that Rebels, if they had a story arc, it was usually like 1-2 episodes max, right? So they're trying to fit this whole idea into, just this amount of space. But the Clone Wars, they're like, if we have an idea, we're going to give it its sweet time. Some of those story arcs go for 5 and 6 episodes. And
they weren't afraid to 2 episodes back to back, and then we'll go see what Hondo's up to.
Right.
And then maybe we'll go see what's going on in Coruscant or whatever. Let's see what's going on in Camino. And then 2 or 3 episodes later, they'll come back and do 2 or 3 more episodes on that, Yeah.
And they just really took the time to develop those ideas. We had I had 2 favorite story arcs. One of them was in the Lost Missions. It was Yoda and his, teeny tiny Jedi fighter. It was so adorable. Going to all these lost planets. And then
that's when you start seeing who the Wills are, and
and you get
when you first hear.
I think that's like
Quai's back from the dead.
Well, yes, and I guess we kind of get hinted at it in the Mortis arc, which is my other favorite arc, where they get a distress call from coordinates, and they're meeting a contingent of clone troopers, and they're like, we're at the same place, but we're not at the same place, and they get taken into this pyramid Death Star planet, and Anakin has to be reconciled with the all-powerful force beings, where Anakin draws his lightsaber and the father's like, no, and he just puts it away with his own hand. He just touches the lightsaber with his own hand. I was, my mind was blown. So you get to see those more conceptual, deeper type force questions that really get answered, and they give you a lot of things to work with. They give you a lot of things to think about.
Yeah. That's so funny because you're like, I really like the deeper philosophical side, and I was like, I like the toys. But, man, they did bring a lot of good toys out there.
They did. And you know what? I will give props to the clone troopers. They did an excellent job of differentiating. You know, what's the guy's name that does the voices? The guy,
shout out D. Bradley Baker. The guy that does. And he also, he's an amazing voice actor. And something that he's really great at is in Avatar The Last Airbender, he's the voice of Momo.
Oh my god!
So I don't know, like all that stuff.
That's so funny.
But the cool thing is, I saw a video and
Ray's talking about how he got in the headspace. Of
those and he was like, troopers. He's talking about maybe this guy's more of an officer and he's more clipped. This guy's a rookie and he's kind of nervous when he's talking about. It's just he just unpacks the different styles, and it's so cool because it's really perfect. I mean, you're watching it and you're like, oh man, these guys. When they're talking about. When you first meet Fives and Echo, and they're shinies, they've never had any battles being fought, and so they're very by the book, and Rex and Cody are coming in, and they're like, yeah, we're not too sure about that. And they're just like, we've been doing this for a hot minute. So I just really like that. But other characters that were introduced, think about other characters introduced in Clone Wars. Obviously...
I think the biggest character that was introduced in Clone Wars that kind of has a pretty significant impact behind the scenes, never mentioned or thought about in the movies, but, in the TV shows from the Clone Wars all the way to Rebels, is Ahsoka Tano.
Yep. And, and finally she actually did not... physical, visible debut, but her voice is in episode 9. Spoiler alert. But she starts in the Clone Wars, and I remember when the Clone Wars movie came out, I was not a fan of Ahsoka. Because the movie came out first before the series.
What was it, like an hour and 20 minutes?
Yeah, it was a little side thing, and so it was just funny because you're like, oh yeah, Anakin, Obi-Wan, look at all these clone troopers. Are we gonna see Count Dooku and all this other stuff? And then it was like, hiya, master. And it was like, who's this? Like, what is she doing here?
Well, and the best part was that the Clone Wars starts right after, I guess, Anakin's passed the trials. Mm-hmm. And so Anakin and Obi-Wan at the beginning are more on par with the friendship level. Right. Obi-Wan's not having to treat him like a subordinate. They're more equal than they've ever been up to this point.
And I don't know if Obi-Wan's a master at this point yet.
I can't remember, to be perfectly honest, and I always wanted to see his, initiation to the rank of master, but
the potential is there that they're both knights at the same time, I guess is the point I was trying to make.
Ahsoka is brought into the story with us thinking that she is supposed to be Obi-Wan's new apprentice, because Obi-Wan's put in for a new apprentice. He's like, thank God I've got Anakin behind me. He's just ready to put him back on the shelves. It's 6 milliseconds away from putting him back on the slave markets in Tatooine. And she shows up, and little Master Yoda, he's like, going to Anakin. So he sends Ahsoka off to be Anakin's new Padawan. Something that nobody there was ready for. Yeah,
and so she actually, her character development is probably the most that happens during the Clone Wars because you meet her when you meet her when she's just barely even a Padawan. She's barely out of, I guess, Jedi Elementary School. Yeah. I don't know how that works, but
and I think they introduced her because she tempered Anakin a lot. Mm-hmm.
They need someone to help. Padme can't be there all the time.
Right.
Which is in the movies, his sole reason for doing anything is like, because I have to save Padme. And so... so, in Episode 3, he seems more calm, cool, and collected. Mm. And it makes sense that it would pull the maturity out of him. And it's just like Yoda to be like, it's for her, but it's really for you. Like, to bring the best out of Anakin. So, man, Ahsoka's story arc is amazing. Think about Hondo. I'm discounting all the clones because I'm just saying clones, but you've got you've got Rex,
you got
Fives. Oh, R.I.P. Fives, Echo, Heavy, R.I.P. again.
Jeez,
you got all these guys. You've got Hondo, my friends.
Yeah,
so he's super cool.
He also makes an appearance in Rebels. I think a lot of the star characters that we only saw in the Clone Wars make a lot of appearances in Rebels.
Yeah, for sure.
Including the Darksaber.
Yeah, very true. You think about Savage Opress.
Yeah.
From Clone Wars.
Mr. Krabs Strikes Again.
Yeah, you've got...
Not doing any different voices, by the way. Mr. Krabs is just like...
Yeah.
I'm angry.
Even in The Mandalorian, he was like...
The Mandalorian is the same exact voice. Governor of Lothal, same exact voice. Savage Opress, same exact voice.
Yeah.
They're like, just give him another one.
You've got Savage, you've got... You got the Night Sisters, you got Mother Talzin, you've got Pre Vizsla, and the Mandalorian's making a big appearance.
Well, and the Night Sisters was a lot of foundation for Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah.
Too. So, there was a lot borrowed from the Clone Wars that was new in the Clone Wars that's given a lot of substance to the newer stuff they're putting out.
Here's another one of the storylines that is maybe my favorite storyline in Clone Wars. You talked about Mortis arc, super, super cool. You have Yoda's journey, and Yoda really starts to kind of unpack what's going on with this Sith Lord.
Right. Yoda's what's the close to figuring it out.
But my favorite story arc is the return. Man, my boy Darth Maul comes back, and and it's just an amazing story arc from he's lost his mind, he doesn't know where he is, he doesn't even really know what's going on, and he just knows one thing. Freaking Kenobi. Obi-Wan's up there.
He knows Kenobi.
He wants to kill him.
He freaking doesn't even know his own name, and he's over there, and his horns are this long, and he's like, Kenobi!
Yeah.
That's all he knows.
And so it's just an amazing story of redemption in a way. You know what I'm saying? At one point in the Clone Wars, he's significant enough in the grand scheme of what's going on in the galaxy that Sidious is like, I'm taking a longer lunch than usual. I'll be right back.
He doesn't get his hands dirty ever.
Yeah,
and
he's always got to take care of somebody else is going to do it. Yeah,
so he brings out both lightsabers.
Yeah,
so sick.
So for sure
that he's making waves. He's making waves. If Palpatine's like, you've stepped on my plan.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I don't lack it.
I remember when I remember the first time. So when Clone Wars came out, I hadn't watched it.
I hadn't watched it for probably until it was almost done. I think I caught up to it right before we got the Lost Missions.
See, here's the thing. You watched it before me because I remember there was a time that I was house sitting for somebody or something, and we were watching, and I was watching Netflix, and I remember that I asked a friend of mine from college, "Is the Clone Wars any good?" Like, because I remember not liking the movie, and I remember being like, "There's this one chick with the head tails. I don't know what that's about." You know, wasn't a fan of Ahsoka. You know, I'm so sorry. Like, she ended up being a really cool character.
She is a fan favorite, but never made it super high on my personal list.
Really?
That's just me, though.
Well, I remember asking my friend from college, one of my roommates, "Is it good?" And he was like, "Aren't you supposed to be like the biggest Star Wars fan I know?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "You haven't seen the Clone Wars?" So, anyways, over this 2 or 3 days that I'm house sitting, I watched all 6 seasons. Mm-hmm. So all first 5 and then the Lost Missions. And I was like, what have I been missing?
Yeah.
It was like the first time that I had, a triple from Whataburger with cheese. I was like, what? This has been here my whole life? So we're from Texas, so In-N-Out's not as good as Whataburger. Face the music. Face the music, man. So, anyways, but I remember just loving Darth Maul's story arc. And, I remember feeling like, obviously I love the prequels. Love the prequels. But I always felt like, dude, we had such a cool character. Like, Darth Maul was so cool. He looks like Satan himself. Like, he's an embodiment of what evil should look like.
Right.
And, the Dooku Jedi Lost novel that came out, the audio drama that came out, so and good. His work in Dark Disciple and his work in Master and Apprentice really started to expand and help me like that character.
Yeah, I was
and Clone Wars as well.
Yeah, I was never a huge fan of Dooku, but that Dooku Jedi Lost, a lot of depth.
Yeah,
a lot of depth.
Yeah, but just from the prequels, I was like, you mean to tell me we had Satan with a double-bladed lightsaber, and we're going to downgrade to Saruman? Like, I love Christopher Lee, okay? I love it. I love that he has a heavy metal Christmas album. Like, Christopher Lee's the man, okay? But as a kid, I was like, this is a downgrade,
Yeah.
And so I felt like they realized that they messed up. They should have kept this guy around. And I know that when episode 3 came out, they were like, how about a robot with 4 arms and lightsabers? So
I feel interest you in 4 lightsabers?
Yeah, they kind of try to counterbalance it. But in Clone Wars, it's a beautiful redemption story of, like, he becomes his own person.
Right.
Like, he's doing things for just himself. He's not a pawn anymore. And so
I think
Darth Maul's story arc is my favorite in the Clone Wars.
Yeah, I think most of the background stuff we have on Maul comes from the novel Plagueis, which doesn't count anymore, but not to me. Plo Koon, he got some righteous screen time.
Oh, yeah.
But he, was basically just taken as an infant. As far as we know, it's never been, like, discarded openly or, replaced by any other storyline. But just kind of taken as an infant by Palpatine and trained to become basically what Ventress was to Palpatine when Dooku was his apprentice. So he was just, like a third man to get his hands dirty.
Yeah.
Because Palpatine was now in the public light. And so, he was made, but then in the Clone Wars, it's like a genuine rags to riches story where he was unmade and then, like, brought himself back to the top.
Yeah. Like, you literally find him on a junk planet.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally
not
just
Raxus Prime, but it looks like Raxus Prime.
Yeah. And, he's just his top half, obviously, because Obi-Wan, gets to the old swoop.
Yeah, he gets the extra creepy with the bottom half spider legs.
Yeah.
I hate spiders.
Yeah, he's got the spider legs going on, which, to me, if you're, like, losing your mind and you're having to use the dark side to hold yourself together...
Just to hold yourself together.
Why not 2 legs? Like, I'm thinking arachnid body. Like, I don't know what he was thinking, but Darth Maul spider is super cool.
If I'm having to, like, go like this on walls,
Yeah, fair enough.
To get people in tunnels, I'm going spider body.
But you get that story. And then he makes his way off that planet. He's super gaunt. Like you said, his horns are super long. He just looks like he is not in his right mind.
Yeah. That's like the Zabrak version of not shaving. When you see somebody in a movie and they're just like drinking Jack Daniels straight from the bottle and they just haven't shaved in like 8 weeks. That's what we see out of Darth Maul.
Like, basically, Darth Maul looks like Tom Hanks from Castaway, except for instead of a long beard, it's long horns.
And instead of a volleyball named Wilson, he has a snake that says, Sal.
It's such a far stretch. It's like an analogy that never touches. Like, instead of a volleyball, what about a snake? Like,
what about Lucifer from the garden?
So, anyways, so he's got this story where, and then they join forces with the Mandalorians, and then they use the influence of the Mandalorians and Death Watch to attack and overthrow these other 2 or 3 huge crime syndicates. You got the Pikes and the Prince Zizor race. I can't remember what they're called. Sun. Oh yeah, they run Black Sun. I can't remember the name, the race though.
I don't know. All I know is the guy that makes the deal with Black Sun is voiced by Mr. Krabs.
We are the Black Sun.
He's like, we accept, you know? It's just like, after Savage throws his lightsaber and decapitates literally everybody else at the table, Mr. Krabs is there to tell Mr. Krabs that he'll take the deal.
So, you got that whole thing, and then, of course, the climax of his, well, not the climax, but the fallout of his story, of course, is when Sidious goes and just hands his butt to him and Savage at the same time.
Yeah, he does them la dirty.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's
so,
like, alright!
So that's my favorite overall story arc. So
great story arc to pick.
Characters that are developed, obviously Ahsoka's a huge one.
Savage is there.
Was super cool.
Ventress, she's big character. You see her kind of like opposite of Maul, where she, you know,
has it all.
Downgrades herself to go have her own life, you know, in a little bit more reclusive, a little bit more anonymity.
And I love Savage because guy has a lightsaber, kills you with his head. Like,
right? Yeah.
He's just a giant monster. He's running with the lightsaber, and then he just goes, "Urgh!"
Yeah, he's the opposite of Rex from Toy Story. He's like, I do want to use my head, you know? He just freaking rams the Jedi Master with his horns.
So that's super cool. I mean, other characters, obviously, 5 story arc is super impactful.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And I feel like, even though you've seen episode 3, the whole time you're rooting like, oh, he's going to bust this case wide open. And you know it just can't happen.
Freaking, some of them do, though.
Yeah.
You get Rex, my main man.
Yeah.
I think, I would love more than anything to get more Rex time, I think.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get some, for sure.
Yeah.
I did think it was pretty savage that, you know, in Rebels, if you haven't seen Rebels, fast forward like 30 seconds, but in Rebels, you know, you see you see Rex and Wolf and Gregor, who have survived, and they've removed their chips.
Yeah.
So they don't, but I read that it's believed that Commander Wolf carried out Order 66 and then removed his chip. He's like, I'm getting pretty sick of you Jedi. Kills them and then goes, I'm feeling morally compromised. Let's take this chip out.
He's like, doesn't count.
Right. So anyways, so those are some of my favorite characters. So
that would explain the wife beater. He's like, I've just lost it all at this point.
So by the end of Clone Wars that we have so far, Ahsoka's left the Jedi.
Mm-hmm. And by choice. She was
put on trial but exonerated.
Set up, and then by the most annoying apprentice I think that we encounter, she was, I forget her name. Barriss. God.
Yeah.
Kill me. God, that story arc where they had to like team up and she's like, I've memorized every tunnel in the entire planet, Ahsoka, can't you? God, kill me now. So she sets her up, and
which is kind of messed up. Why couldn't you set up
she's like
your
literally
master?
her only friend, right? She's like already hates her master. She's like 3/4 dark side at this point.
Yep.
And
a lot of people thought that Barriss was going to be second sister from Fallen Order, but she wasn't.
Yeah, that would have been neat.
So, okay, so let's backtrack a little bit. But by the end of Clone Wars that we have right now,
yeah. So anyway, she was exonerated, and she's like, you know what? I'm not going back.
And I think that it really kind of shows that I think they do a really good job, and maybe it's through Ahsoka's story, of showing the Jedi are not the people that they should be. And not because they're being forced into the war, like what were they going to do? No, we're not going to help the Republic. Mm-hmm. But it's more of, you know, I think a lot of people had a lot of hate for George Lucas by introducing the concept of midi-chlorians because they were like, the Force should be accessible to anybody. But to me, one of the reasons that George introduced it is so that he can say, the Jedi aren't focused on your heart. They're not focused on your desire to do good. They're focused on, well, you have the most potential, so we're going to take you instead.
Right.
And they start to really unpack the shortcomings of the Jedi. And so by the end of Clone Wars that we have so far, Sidious is full on in charge. You know, him and Yoda almost kind of have a fight in a vision, and Sidious whoops him. And so Yoda is so close to knowing exactly what's going on, and then doesn't know what's going on at the same time. Qui-Gon has begun to communicate with Yoda through the Force, and at that point, he cannot become a physical being like we see Ben do or Yoda
Qui-Gon
do.
his due, but I think they did that, one, because he never shows up in the original trilogy, obviously, because he hadn't existed yet.
Right.
And at the same time, you know, they just, like, his training wasn't complete. You know, he still had things to do before he died on Naboo.
And I was worried that when they use that terminology, when Qui-Gon tells Yoda, I can't manifest my physical presence, my training was incomplete, I was like, oh, what the heck, is he never gonna... But we know now from a certain point of view, short story collection that came out, that when he speaks to Obi-Wan on Tatooine, he does come into the physical, like we see Ben and Yoda.
Yeah. So I guess you can train in the afterlife.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense if they're part of the cosmic force and they're just going on forever.
Yeah, just like sipping on straight force juice all day.
So, you know what? And I was really hoping, we talked about this last episode, but I was really, really hoping for Qui-Gon to make, and every Jedi, especially Anakin, but especially Qui-Gon, make a physical appearance as a Force ghost.
Yeah, I really wanted it.
And maybe specifically Qui-Gon was held back because they want to show him start to manifest and teach Obi-Wan in the Kenobi series.
Yeah.
But anyways, so that you're there, Obi-Wan and Anakin are pretty much where they're going to be by the end of the Clone Wars. And so to round off this episode, let's talk a little bit about what do we want to see in Season 7. I know that we know a lot of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But what are some of the possibilities? What do we want to see happen? And maybe what I guess we'll start with, what are your far-fetched desires?
Dang, far-fetched desires.
Yeah. That you don't expect, but it would be sick. I've already got one in mind.
Yeah, well, and we know Qui-Gon's not going to really talk to Obi-Wan at all. If he talks at all, he's going to be talking to Yoda. I would like to see a lot more.
It can't be Obi-Wan because in episode 3...
Yeah, because in episode 3 he's like, Master?
Yeah.
So if he's talking, it will be to Yoda, but I would like to see, you know, some more of his character, maybe how he's playing a role, trying to show the Jedi, you know, what's going on behind the scenes. I do want to see, like, the unraveling of Anakin a little bit more, because his fall was abrupt. I mean, you have to see somebody's whole life fall apart in 2.5 hours.
Right.
But Season 7 is supposed to take place during the beginning of Episode 3.
Right.
And
I think that's huge. I think that opens up so many possibilities.
Right. Maybe we get to see the business on Cato Nemoidia.
Right. Doesn't count.
Doesn't count. Because the only time we see Cato Nemoidia in the Clone Wars is a useless Jar Jar Padme arc. I could do without any more Jar Jar story arcs. They're all just the worst. When I
like them. I like them.
You can have them. But I would love to see that kind of stuff. Obviously, I want more Anakin, more Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan's my boy from day one. He's always been my favorite Jedi my whole life. Yeah. So that's only been redeemed more as I've watched and gotten deeper into Star Wars.
So far-fetched. Something that you don't expect, but it would be sick.
Ahsoka to die. No, I'm just kidding. We've already got Ahsoka. We've already got her in Rebels.
Wow.
So I know it's not going to happen.
Well, don't unfollow us yet, folks.
Just kidding. I didn't say anything. Jeez. Okay, come back to me.
Okay. Here's mine. Ready? Here's mine. We know for a fact that when the Clone Wars were still going on, that Chancellor Palpatine and Anakin Skywalker meet Mithran Rudo.
Ooh, that's a good one. Smart.
That would be lit. And I said this last episode, but if I see Qui-Gon on screen as the Force Ghost, I'm adding this one to the pile. If Thrawn comes in, Clone Wars Season 7, I will take my shirt off as I'm watching this episode. That would be sick,
yeah.
Because it's already set up. It's already set in stone, and it's during the Clone Wars.
It's in Thrawn Alliances,
and why
if you haven't read the book.
Put Thrawn in there?
Dude.
He's the people's champ.
He is people's champ.
So, and they have the new novel coming out. I just think it would be clever of them to just put a little nugget.
Yeah, to see that story arc would be... I mean, it's already set up.
Even if... I know we only have so many episodes. Like, I think it's only going to be 12 or 13 episodes. Like, they've already said it's only going to be 12.
Can it be infinite episodes?
But, right? But why couldn't it just be like, there's an important meeting, and... Because we know, obviously, this whole time that Palpatine is kind of... come along, Anakin, what do you think,
Yeah.
I don't know why it sounds like Obi-Wan, but... come along, Anakin. But it'd be cool if it was a secret meeting. Like, it would be cool if there was a secret meeting where Obi-Wan's like, does anyone know where Anakin is? And he's having a meeting with the Chancellor, and Obi-Wan turns his head. Okay, I've already envisioned this in my mind. But Anakin turns his head, and as the door is closing, right, so he can be like, what's going on in there? Just a glimpse. Just a small glimpse of Thrawn, Anakin, and Palpatine. Shirt's coming straight off.
Well, Thrawn and Palpatine haven't met at that point yet. They don't meet until after 3.
What?
Yeah, the first Thrawn book in the new trilogy that Tennessee put out, because he's meeting Palpatine after the Empire's already formed, and he's like, "Are you the one?" And so they're
so Anakin and him, but Palpatine's not there.
Yeah, no, Palpatine's not there. It's on a planet in the Outer Rim.
You're right.
Yeah.
But I would still have to see that. You're right, because he's remembering. Okay. Mm-hmm. But still, to see Anakin and Thrawn.
Yeah, that would be
sweet.
Sick.
Okay. So, there's my far-fetched. Did you think of one?
Oh, no. I was so focused on Thrawn.
All right. I'll keep going with possibilities. And then we'll wind it down. I'll do 2. I'll come up with 2 more, and then you've got to have a crazy one by then. All right? And then we'll
just wind talk down to them. I'll be thinking.
All right, guys. It's just me and you. All right. Here's another couple possibilities. I would love to see... I don't know how much time we have. And I know we've already gotten a novel, so the chances of us seeing this aren't as strong. But I would love to see Quinlan Voss's Dark Disciple arc. Mm-hmm. So like I said, I know we've already gotten a novel... But to see Quinlan Voss with the red lightsaber and Sith eyes would make my life. And also, Hasbro, if you're listening to me, make a fully articulated Sith Quinlan Voss figure. That would be sick. There's one. You got one?
Quinlan Voss. I'm gonna steal, and I'm gonna go a little bit.
Okay.
As a birthday or Christmas present, one point in the past, Josiah got me the omnibus of all the Quinlan Voss comics, because he's one of my favorites because of the Dark Disciple arc. But there is a storyline where he is drugged and loses all his memories, mm-hmm. and he wakes up and he doesn't know where he's at. He doesn't have his lightsaber. He doesn't even know who he is.
And you get to see more of his impulsive side.
And he just instinctively draws on the dark side and kills a bunch of bounty hunters with Sith lightning. I'd love to see that.
Yeah.
I would love to see that.
And maybe, I know that the stuff that you're talking about necessarily isn't canon anymore, but it could. But he does go dark for a second.
Yeah.
So we could still see something like that.
Well, and you see Palpatine kind of scouting Voss as a replacement apprentice as well.
Yeah.
So we only get him a little bit, and they kind of make him like the Big Lebowski. I think they literally steal lines from the Big Lebowski for his character, mm-hmm. but I'd like to see him get a little more depth.
Yeah, I agree. I know there's a rumor for a new Quinlan Voss figure coming out. And so maybe it's because he's going to be back out. I don't know. They do re-releases, but we'll see. A Quinlan Voss Black series would be sick. I know we're getting into toy talk. But, okay, I'll say one more, and then we can wrap it up unless you have something to add.
Okay, I'll think about it.
Again, something we already know. Well, at least in concept, it's already been talked about. And they showed at one Star Wars Celebration or San Diego Comic-Con, one of them, they showed a clip of Boba Fett and Cad Bane shooting it out. And Boba Fett kills Cad Bane, who at the time is the strongest bounty hunter in the galaxy. And Boba Fett's my favorite Star Wars character.
Cad Bane is super dope, though.
And I know, I love Cad Bane. And I like that he likes nice hats.
He's dope. I would like to see them fight.
Yeah.
Because that's the rise of Boba right
Yeah, and exactly. And so with The Mandalorian coming out, one thing that I don't like as a Star Wars fan is I don't like it when other Star Wars fans hate on the stuff you like. You know what I'm saying? If you like Episode 8, it's not my favorite, but that's cool. And I will talk with you about the parts that I like. And if there's a part I don't really care about, I'm not going to try to bring you down. I don't like that people who keep talking trash about Boba because they love The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And we didn't get to see as much of Boba as we wanted. We know that George wanted him to escape the Sarlacc, but he felt like it took from the story of Episode 6. Mm-hmm. So I would just love to get 1 or 2 episodes that are just dedicated to Boba Fett just killing folks. Just going in. Doesn't even matter if there's a bounty or not. Flamethrower, burning everybody to death.
So you want to see Boba kind of go from Kid Boba working under what's her head?
Or Singh.
Aura Singh. Where he's like, I don't want to kill anybody. You want to see him go dark?
I would even love if, I know that they already have the concept and the skeleton work, but even if they redid the work, and maybe it's because we can go a little bit further because they've unpacked the idea that it could be during episode 3.
Yeah.
So it could even be a couple years later. I would love for D. Bradley Baker or Tamura Morrison to voice him. Not because, because I know, Daniel Logan, he's a huge Star Wars fan. He's dedicated to the brand, and he's a cool dude. I've actually spoken to him on Instagram and stuff. He's a nice guy. But because Daniel Logan's voice is still so young, even though he's a grown man, if he walks in, he's like, that's enough, Cad Bane. It just doesn't lend to the badness that I need Boba Fett to be. So it would be really sick if D. Bradley Baker was if he voiced him, that would be sick. Make sense?
It makes sense to me.
So those are a couple of things we're looking forward to. Obviously, Bad Batch is coming. Battle of Mandalore is going to be sick. I know that they're going to make Ahsoka and Maul seem equal, but if Maul just hands her butt and destroys her, and then we know she's going to survive, so what's there to fear, right?
Right.
So, anyways, it's so exciting. It's an amazing time to be a Star Wars fan. Clone Wars is coming out. Obi-Wan series is on the way. There's talks of other trilogies and stuff, so it's an amazing time. Thank you guys for tuning in. This has been the second episode covering the Clone Wars, and then we're going to be trying to be doing these things weekly. So keep tuning in. Thank you guys for listening to the Chiss Ascendancy.
Rock on.
May the Force be with you always.
The only family you have here is me. That's going to be my tagline. I'm going to make it.
See y'all. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Hey, if you liked what you heard, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and you can also find us on Instagram at Chiss Ascendancy Podcast. We'll see you next time.